use LRAC. Okay. Okay, so here again, we mentioned this briefly at the start of this class. So economies of scale. Okay? Economies of scale, this kind of concept is much easier. Okay? So Q goes up. Okay, Q goes up. LRAC goes down. So long run average cost goes down. So this is economies of scale. And this part, diagram B, is this economies of scale. Production level goes up. Okay? Long run average cost goes up. So this is this economy of scale. For this part, we're going to forget about it. Okay? And application, again, sorry, forget about it. You're going to read the book yourself. Okay, let's get to chapter 8. And so, for next week, we're going to discuss a little bit overall explanation of production cost and perfect competition. And then we're going to discuss homework. So you have to do your homework, chapter 7 and chapter 8. Okay, so what is chapter 8? Perfectly competitive product markets. Okay, perfectly competitive is one of the most efficient production, and almost all economists prefer this kind of situation. But it is hard. Okay, it is hard because to meet the requirements of a perfect competitive market, you need several conditions. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so we have some basic assumptions, okay, of a perfectly competitive market, okay, and why the logic of profit maximization output makes this kind of market so desirable by all the economists. And so, of course, you have to go step by step, derive the firm's short-run supply curve, okay, and from there to the market interaction. And then there is a concept called producer surplus. Even though we have mentioned it last semester, but here it shows you a little bit different on the calculation how to get producer surplus. And you're going to get industry short run equilibrium, and of course from short run you're going to get long run. Okay, a perfectly competitive product or input market must meet the following 4 specific assumptions. First of all, it has to be many buyers and many sellers. Okay? So, Zhang Zhewei, can you tell me one example of a market, okay, that has many buyers and many sellers? Zhang Zhewei, 举手. Okay? Can you give us one example? Something like this, you have many buyers and many sellers. Rice. Okay, what else? Fish. You mean fish? Are you sure? Rice, is not that easy to, for rice, there's much difference between, say the farmers in down south in Hengchuan or, north in Taichung or maybe even further north in Taoyuan, right? But what about fish? You have so many different fish, right? Can you tell me some examples of fish? Different kind of fish. So many, right? So here, the point is on the second part, homogeneity. What is homogeneity? 林玉祥. Excuse me? Homo. Okay, homo means the same. Homo basically means the same. You have so many different fish. But for rice, you may have some different rice because for the rice to get, there are so many things that it's difficult to say in English. But anyway, there are several kinds of rice, right? So anyway, Gao Jiayan, can you tell me different kinds of rice? No, I'm not talking about places. The first one is right? What else? That's too much in detail. No. We have Dragon Ball Festival, right? You know that? Yeah, you got it. Anyway, okay. But in terms of fish, oh gosh, I just can't tell you all the numbers of different kind of fish, right? 张志伟. So it has to be homogeneity. Homogeneous, okay? The adjective is homogeneous. And you have many buyers, many sellers. What about oil? Okay, Hong Kai-Xuan. Is oil a perfectly competitive market?
No.
Why not?
Not many sales.
Not many sellers. Can you tell me example?
就只有几间是大厂而已。
Probably it's countries, right? Russia, okay, produce a lot of oil. Saudi Arabia, okay, and America, right? The United States. And many buyers, right? Many buyers. Probably, for oil you have many buyers, but few sellers, right? For cars, okay, you have many buyers, but very few sellers, right? You have Toyota, Honda, and Ford, right? GM, Chrysler, BMW, and you have too many different cars, right? Different kind of cars. You have luxury cars, you have compact cars, SUV, right? So it's not homogeneous, okay? So to satisfy the first one probably is easy, but to satisfy the second one, that's the most important thing. You have to have product of the same quality, okay? Product of the same quality. But whether something is different or not really depends on the consumer, okay? Be careful of this. Whether something is different or not really depends on the taste of the consumer. So for example, we have so many kind of computers, right? You have people call ASUS, but I say ASUS is not that nice. Maybe Asus, right? And you have Acer. And you have HP, right? Toshiba. And what else? You have Dell, right? And you even have Apple, right? Apple computer. Okay? But except for Apple, because, anyway. Get rid of it because we don't talk about Apple. Okay, you have so many kinds of computers, right? Are they the same? Zheng Yili, you have so many computers. Are they the same? You even have Lenovo, right? Lenovo. You have so many. Are these computers the same? No, they are not the same because of different brands. What else? Ye Yifang. Are these computers the same? The point I'm going to tell you is that whether something is homogeneous, the same quality, really depends on your taste. And somehow firms, companies would like to manipulate your taste. So what is manipulate? 李云祥, what is manipulate? Right, they want to control, right? They want to control you, okay? They even have Sony, right? Sony. 金盛的 Anahir. 卢佑祥. Are these computers the same? No, they are not the same. They are not the same. Why? Okay, which one is better? In your opinion, which one's better? Acer. Really? Not HP? This one is more expensive, you know. HP is actually more expensive than the others. And of course these two, right? You know that these two are produced by Taiwanese. Okay? But are they the same? You said they are not the same. Okay. Huang Xiuhui. Are these the same? No? Really? So which one do you have? Asus. Okay. Chen Xicai. Are they the same? They are the same? Why?
因为其实用起来都是电脑。
But why some people prefer the one over the others? I mean, for computer, it's really easy. They are all the same. Why? CPU. Okay, Chen Xizai, tell me, what kind of CPU do these computers have? CPU, what's CPU? Right, Central Processing Unit. All the CPU comes from Intel, right? Or AMD, right? And they run the same code, right? Run the same program. So what's the difference? Actually, there's no difference, right? And then this is CPU, right? And then there's memory chip, right? Memory. All the memory chips come from Taiwan, Samsung, TSMC, whatever, right? So, as a matter of fact, all these companies just buy all the components, CPU, memory chips, whatever, and then put them together. And then just put it HP, Acer, Asus, Dell, whatever, right? It's basically the same thing. But people tell you they are different. Okay, so that's why if you buy Toshiba or HP, generally they are more expensive, right? Because it's produced by Japanese. No, it's by Taiwanese, right? We have a computer company called Guangda, right? Quantum. So what's the job of quantum? 于华元.
不知道。
Why? You never use it.
对。
于念婷. Guangda. What's quantum? What's the product of quantum? You know, 高嘉燕, quantum. Okay, let me give you an example of TSMC. TSMC produced for others, right? So what does that mean in two words? Mandarin, 切金用. Right. So that's the same thing for Guangda. Guangda produces computers for others, but this company never put a brand of its own. So as a matter of fact, if you buy an HP or Toshiba, probably it's produced by whom? A Taiwanese producer, Guangda, right? Okay, I'm just telling you. A lot of time we have a lot of advertisement. What's the function of advertisement? It wants to convince you that his product is better than the others. Okay, so for example, we have a company called Sony, okay? And the other company called Taotong, right? So 张志伟, what is 大同?
大同
Okay, Sony, you know that, right? Okay, this is a commercial. A TV. Okay, a TV. Two little kids watching the TV, and then these two little kids grow up. Okay, and then these two little kids get married. Okay, and then they have kids, and of course these two couples. I mean, this couple grows old, right? And whole family, they are still watching the same TV. So what does that tell you? And this is advertisement for Sony. So what does this tell you? Sony is a good product, right? It lasts very long, okay? And the quality is really good. But what about Datong? They emphasize, okay, this company emphasize they have good services. Why they emphasize good services? Because it will break down, right? So what's the price difference? This one is much more expensive than this one. But if you get rid of the brand, okay, get rid of the brand. As a matter of fact, a lot of components are the same at this point, because for TV, okay, or radio, or stereo, all these things. As a matter of fact, they all use electronic components, and electronic components come from many companies. It's never. So for example, you buy a BMW, okay? So let us say you buy a BMW and buy a Toyota, okay? And for these two kinds of cars, most likely they have to use chips, right? If it is chips, computer chips, it's produced by TSMC or the other companies, okay? So even though they have different brand, okay? They have different brand, but as a matter of fact, the components actually may be the same, okay? So here, homogeneity is something that the company want to manipulate, okay? They want to convince you that their products are much better than the others, so that they can charge a higher price. That is what we call, you have monopolistic power. Monopolistic power. So that means they can control the price you pay. So why Sony is more expensive than the others? But probably you don't care about computer, but you care about cell phone, right? For cell phone, which one is more expensive? Sony or Apple? Which one is more expensive? Hong Kai-Xuan, which one is more expensive? Why? Just because of the brand, right? If you check the memory chips, you check the battery, right? It's all come from the same kind of company, right? But there's a big difference. Sony use Android, right? That's different kind of software operation system. Apple's, probably much better, but it doesn't really matter that much, because a phone is a phone, right? Just like a car is a car. You can deliver you from point A to point B. That's a good car, right? But okay, so you have many buyers, many sellers. This is very difficult to satisfy. But generally for food, rice, fruits, okay, fruits, and sugar, right? Okay, flour. I'm talking about this kind of flour, right? Okay, basically food. Okay, food. For food, you have a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers, and they more likely to have the same kind of quality. Okay, but of course people mention rice, right? But I really prefer this kind of rice, right? It's in Taitung because there's no pollution, and really tastes much better. The third one, free entry and exit. Okay, so this one is not that easy, right? So at this point we have chip shortages. Okay, so why not solve it? So if there are chip shortages, of course you can produce more, right? Okay, what I'm talking about is chips. Okay, 叶一方, what are chips that I'm referring to? 叶一方. So what are chips that I'm talking about? Okay, 陈希才, you want to say something? Chips. Computer chips. Computer chips. 余华元. Why there is a shortage of computer chips? Suppose there is a shortage of computer chips. Okay, shortage of it, and then because of that, right, the pandemic. And supposedly, okay, if there's a shortage of rice or shortage of eggs, what would you do? You will produce more rice. You will produce more eggs. So at this point, we have been in shortage of eggs for about maybe 1 month, but because of the shortage, government subsidized production of eggs, right? So now there are more eggs out in the market, right? So supposedly the same kind of logic will apply, right? If there's a shortage of chips, people can put more resources, build more factory to produce chips, right? Okay, so why not? You understand what I'm talking about? If there's shortage of rice, shortage of eggs, we can just give people more money to build more farms, right? And to cultivate more rice, and to have more chickens, and then you're gonna have more eggs. Why not more chips? I'm talking about free entry and exit, okay? 谢新佑, you may know something, right?
厂房就是技术有制造晶片能力的厂商有限。
Okay, technology. That's the first part, technology. The second part is very expensive. It is called fabrication. It's very expensive to build a factory, okay? If you're gonna have chickens, you just buy one, right? You're gonna have rice, that's easy too. You just a piece of land, then you can cultivate it, okay? What about chips? It's very expensive. How expensive? Tens of billions of dollars, okay? What's $10 billion? Are you sure? How much is 1 billion?
7000万。
Billion. Billion is not million.
100亿。
Exactly. So it's a big sum. I'm talking also I'm not talking about NT. I'm talking about US dollar. Okay? Who has this kind of money? Very few people, right? So free entry and exit is never easy. Okay? Just the same thing like cars. If there's shortage of cars, okay, and you wanna join the business to make cars for people, because if there's a shortage of cars gonna be very expensive. So it will be profitable for you to produce, right? Just like this moment, and in the United States, it is so hard to imagine a used car can cost more than a new car. Okay, a used car costs more than a new car. So if that is the case, why don't you produce new cars more, right? The point is, if you want to produce a new car, gosh, you need to have a very big factory, right? And you at least have to produce the annual volume like 600 million. Sorry, let me check. That's 600,000 cars. Okay, something like that to make it reach the economies of scale. Okay, so free entry and exit, it is never easy to get it. Okay, so the same thing for food, rice, eggs, chicken, pork, beef. For this kind of products, is easier to get, but still not that easy, you know. Okay, so anyway, the fourth condition, perfect and freely available information. Okay, this is even more difficult to get it. Okay, so free information. So for example, have anyone purchased used motorbike? Second-hand motorbike. Has anyone purchased second-hand motorbike? 郑怡婷, you bought new? So you get new one. Okay. 叶一方, have you ever purchased used motorbike? No. 林玉祥, have you ever purchased used? No. 余华元, oh gosh, you are so rich. Everyone getting new ones. 于念婷, you bought new one or used one? Used. Okay. Excuse me? New. What about you? You bought new one too. Anyway. But in the United States, most people get second-hand car, used car. Okay. So, if you bought used car, do you have information about what's going on in the car? For example, in Taiwan, say, it's flooded, or it had accidents. Do you know these things? You don't, right? Who knows that? The seller, okay? And so how are you gonna tell? So usually in the United States, when you wanna buy a used car, generally you have to pay $100 or $200 for what? For a mechanic to examine the car, right? And to make sure that the transmission, the brake, okay, everything works fine. So, 张志伟, what's transmission? Transmission. What's transmission? Do you drive the car?
会开。
Okay. So what's transmission? In Taiwan, it's called mission. In Taiwan, people usually say mission. So what is that? Transmission.
有佣金哦，还是中介费？
That's commission. So what's that? Transmission. 余华远 transmission.
我不会开始，我不知道。
Okay, anyway. 林玉祥 No idea? 谢金佑 you should know something, right? Transmission. Is used to shift the gear. So what's that?
变速。
Right, exactly. Okay. So, talking about cars, then what about houses? Okay, houses. If you want to buy a house, okay, if you want to buy a house, there is one thing that you really need to be careful about, right? 郑怡玲, when you want to buy a house, 2 words. You know, whether a murder has happened or not. 李玉祥, what's murder? So what would they call for the house? Right, exactly, right? So do you know that? Very likely you don't. So free information, okay, free information is never true, okay? So from this perspective, actually advertisement tell you something, right? Advertisement tell you something. And you have to pay for it, right? Because, you know, the company, when they want to sell something, they have to pay for commercial, they have to pay for advertisement. And of course, all these will increase the price. Because consumer, they do need information. And supposedly, you want to buy a house, you have to collect a lot of information. And if you want to buy a car, okay, the same thing, just like me, I bought a car last year. And what do I have to do? I have to collect information from Toyota, okay, from their model. How many models do they have, and what's the engine, right? And whether it's hybrid or not. Okay, all this information is never free. Okay, so basically you want to get a perfect competitive market. That's not easy. Okay, because sometimes it's very expensive to invest, and so very difficult to get out of the market. Okay, and so because of that, you won't have many buyers or many sellers. Okay, but for a perfectly competitive market, we assume these are all true. Okay, these are all true. So for producers and consumers, they are all price takers. Okay, no one can affect the price. Okay, no one can affect the price. So it's the best situation. Everyone is a price taker. Okay, and this is telling you, the logic of profit maximization. It means that, okay, suppose you want to get the most out of it. Okay, so assume this is tax. Okay. Of course, if you produce at the minimum, okay, I mean, at low level, right? So you don't get high income, but you produce too much, right? What you get? If you produce too much, there's just too much available to consumers. The marginal utility goes down, right? And the willingness to pay is going down as well. And so because of that, there is something that you have to have trade-off. Okay, so you cannot produce too many or too little. Okay, if you produce too many, then you cut your profit margin. If you produce too little, you don't get enough of it. Okay. So you have marginal revenue and marginal profit. So basically, this is the okay. So at this point, we can work out the formula, okay, for a firm to maximize profit now. Okay. So this is a company. Okay, they're gonna maximize their profit. So P times LK, right? So this is the price. So as a matter of fact, what is this? This is Q, right? So this is the revenue. Okay, so generally we call TR. Okay, TR is equal to P times Q. Okay, let's try the easy one first. Okay, so pi is profit. Okay, pi is profit is equal to TR minus TC. Okay, TR minus TC. And so from here, what you get? You want to differentiate this with respect to Q. So d pi, okay, dq. So what you get? dtr dq minus dtc dq. Okay. So here is total revenue differentiate with respect to Q. So what do you get? You get marginal revenue. Okay. And total cost differentiate with respect to Q, you get marginal cost. And so when it is equal to 0, this is what we call first order condition. Okay, first order condition. And to differentiate further, so you have dq dt, sorry. Minus dq dmc. This is the second order condition. Okay? So it has to be less than 0. And what is this? This is the slope of marginal revenue. Okay, this is the slope of marginal revenue. This is the slope of marginal cost. So it means that the slope of the marginal revenue must be less than the slope of marginal cost. And so what does this mean? Let me show you in the diagram. Okay? So let us say here it is Q, okay, production level, and here is the cost. Okay? And so we have a marginal cost curve like this. Okay? And we have the price. So suppose this is the price. Okay. We're gonna deal with this, next week. So you have point A here, and you have point B here. Okay. So can anyone tell me? So this point A and point B both satisfy first order condition because this is marginal cost and here is marginal revenue, right? So at this QA and this QB, okay? At point QA, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And point B, marginal revenue also equals marginal cost. But which one is the profit maximization for the firm? Okay? So, Wang Xiaohui. So which one is the right one? Which one maximizes profit? Excuse me? B? Okay? Good. Why? Look at this. We say the slope of the marginal revenue, okay, the slope of the marginal revenue must be less than the slope of the marginal curve, okay? What is the slope here? The slope here is 0, right? The slope here is 0. The slope here is negative, right? The slope here is negative. The slope here is positive, right? So this point satisfies the second order condition. Or you can look it in the other way, okay? So, total revenue, P times Q, right? It is total revenue, okay? Questions? P times Q is equal to total revenue. What about total cost? So, if you want to get marginal cost, so D, TC, DQ, you get marginal cost, right? Questions? And how are you going to get total cost? You get integration of MC DQ. So what is integration for? Zhang Zhewei, what is integration for? What does integration do? Zhang Zhewei. Yep. Okay, good. Xie Xingyong, what's integration?
计分
Okay, what's integration do? Integration actually is to calculate the area, right? So here, if we differentiate TC with respect to Q, we get MC, marginal cost. And if we integrate MC, what you get? You get total cost. So here, this area, okay, this area plus this area, that is under MC, right? So this part, the blue part plus the red part is equal to total cost, okay? That is equal to total cost. So at point A, what happened? At point A, what happened? Actually, you have loss because the total cost is this part plus this part, right? What about your total revenue? This is your total revenue. So what does that mean? At point A, it is not the maximum of your profit, it's the maximum of your loss. Okay? And what about here? Here you have marginal, let's get to the total revenue first. Here is P, right? And here is Q. So the total revenue is here. Okay? What about the total cost? The total cost is the area under MC. Okay, the area under MC. Right? So the total cost is this part, okay, altogether. So as a matter of fact, you still have something that looks like a profit. Is this area, right? Okay? So anyway, in this case, when we talk about perfectly competitive market and the monopoly, you got to be very careful, because when you just have the first order condition, MR equals MC, you may not get the answer, because just like this, right? We just mentioned it can be here or it can be here. If it is here, if the first order condition is, if you have first order condition, MR is equal to MC, you can be here or you can be here, right? So you want to make sure that the second order condition is also met. Okay, the second order condition is also met. So what do you need to have? You need to have the slope of the marginal revenue, okay, the slope of the marginal revenue less than the slope of the marginal cost curve, okay? So the marginal cost curve here is positive, and here the slope is 0, right? So it is B, okay? So point A is actually at the minimum, so that's the maximum of your loss. And point B will be here, okay? So you want to make sure that you get what you want. Okay, let's take a break. 所以各位要看这个